All right, people. Namaste, fellow souls. Thank you for tuning in to the interview. And now, again, back again, we got our boy Ben Myers with After the Bell. Ben, how the hell are you, pal?
We are here. We are living. Every time we do our pre-show ritual of just joining in for the present moment, I can start to feel the energy like rising in my body. After a guest like Jeff Viel, like the energy is humming, man. Like the conversation between you two had me going, and to be able to break it down here with you talking about the difference between hockey and life and the connection of, the fight versus After the Bell and all of this stuff. I'm so excited to jump in, my friend. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here. Ding, ding.
Let's go. Ding, ding. We are blessed to have you, man. And it's just still pinching myself we get on and do this. I mean, it's only a couple episodes in, but it's just wild. But I think, as you see, people, we have different people come on this podcast with different energies, different vibrations, different lived experiences, different fights, or the lack thereof. What was the initial reaction to listen to this interview from this very unique individual that I think you saw kind of stumped me?
You know what's really cool? What I took from it is the level of presence he brings without trying. And I'm sure there's a lot of effort on his end to be in the moment. And it's not just something that comes, naturally all the time through all of the hardships of, the grind of getting to where you're going. But the thing I took from he said this line in there, and it was, don't think, just do. And he was in this state of flow that was like, hey, whatever comes my way, I'm good. And it was just kind of like, I know our stories and our journeys. It was like, that wasn't always the feeling. So that's what I took from him. It was just kind of like, yeah, let's not overcomplicate this. Whatever happens, happens, and we're going to be good. I loved that from Jeff.
Oh, and I'll tell you, like, when I first met him and I talked about it, like looking him up, doing my research on him and just being like, there's something different about this guy. Like, he is not big. He's 6'1". He's thick. He's got up to like 215 pounds. He's not small, but he just don't give a shit. He's like a honey badger, but then you talk to him off the ice and he's almost laissez-faire. He's almost like sleepy. I almost said, like, you almost like seem kind of like a guy who likes his reefer a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. It's, how does he flip that switch? But I sifted through all his life and all these different things, but the humble beginnings, I think, is where it has to start, right?
It has to. And you know what I'm picking up through the theme of this pod, no matter who we have on, especially if they're like a grinder in the league, that off the ice, 90%, 99% are completely different humans. You even mentioned Gudis on there being like, I only know him like on the ice, but like off the ice, I've heard he's a phenomenal person, a phenomenal father, like all of the above, like realizing that, like, especially you can speak to it as a professional athlete, there is this switch that, like, a gear that so many people are just unfamiliar with. And it doesn't have to be just sports. It can be like you're professional. If you're an expert in your field, like, there's a gear that only the top 1% of people can get to. And we're privileged to see the top 1% on here. But you mentioned about the roots, and what I took from that was something I have on my notes over here, right? It's this, when we grow up and our subconscious mind is just digesting and intaking all of these things, it's so much about what we're shown, not necessarily about what we're taught. So I think of it from like a parent's perspective. Like, we take in and digest so much of who they are, how they act in the world, with each other, with us, more so than the things they sit down to teach us about morals and manners and all of these things. We are just sponges. So when he was talking about, the environment he grew up in, the support he had, like, it just made me think, like, how important it is to be in that environment of where you are ingesting and just absolutely adapting to this world of just being a kid and seeing what is going on, because that's who you're going to become 90% of the way throughout the rest of your life.
Amen. I mean, and we live 95% of our life below the surface of that iceberg and that subconscious programming, right? And the 5% is all we can really handle in our brain. We need to filter down reality. That's what our brain does. It doesn't produce consciousness. It filters down consciousness, allows us to interface with it. But yeah, we absorb what we are shown, not told, and whether a parent does the work on themselves, put that oxygen mask on first, some people just seem to come to it naturally, and some people have to put a concerted effort like us maybe, and that's why we're the ones doing the podcast. But his dad from a young age, just he's gone a lot. Hey, I got to leave. I got to drive. I got a truck. I got to make money for this family. And it just is what it is. I'm not going to pout about it. I'm not going to whine about it. I just get in the damn truck and I go. And it's like, fair enough, Dad. See you when you get back. And I hope to come on with you in March break and go for a trip with you and chill in the back at the truck stops and all that stuff. Like that was amazing. But then when he's home, it's still the same thing. Mom's got to get up, go massage. I don't care if my arms are sore. I don't care if I'm tired. I just get up and do the work. And it was shown to this guy. My goodness.
Think about how that translated. Like everything you just said, you guys talked about 2020, the pandemic, and the way you started the season in Arizona in training camp and you're doing things on the road. That's his dad being on trips and doing all that stuff. Like it was shown to him at such a young age, like, yo, this is what you do to make it, to do these things. Like this is normal, where some other people don't find that to be normal. It's kind of like, hey, this is a lot harder than I expected it to be. What I got from him is he came from a place of hard work is the normal. And if you're working towards a goal to either supply for your family or provide for your family, all of those things, like these are the things that are necessary. Whatever's thrown at you, you respond to. You don't act as if it's something that's punching you in the face. And if it does, in your guys' case, you punch back.
Yeah, literally. So that's why I was so stumped of just like, damn, okay, like I think I was modeled this too. But for whatever reason, in my personal lived experience, my heightened senses, my neurodivergency, whatever, it got pulled in all different directions. It started absorbing other things, which again, I had that great, discipline put in me with immigrant grandparents and all that, but I got sucked into kind of some of the other stuff. And I didn't have the partner like he had from junior that was consistent all the way through, now married. I was all over the place. So I know that kind of strikes a nerve with me. What about you? When you think about how you were brought up and your subconscious programming, was it shown, was it told to you, and how did you navigate that?
It was shown 100%. And I think you don't realize it when you're a kid as much as like if you're fortunate enough to have the awareness and the support group around you where you're allowed to kind of dive into what happened in the past and stuff like that. My parents are the two hardest workers I know to this day. My dad's 68, 69, still the hardest worker in any room, and without a doubt, like it's just one of those things of like, it wasn't anything he had to say to me. It's just I see how they showed up in the world, and I was like, that's how I show up in the world. Now, where I think it gets interesting is at some point you become the artist on the canvas, right? You become your own creator, where you start to kind of pick and choose. Well, I kind of want to leave that behind a little bit. I kind of want to take these things. And I think that's where a lot of us start getting tripped up, is we think we're just destined to become these things because of genetics. And then without going like super nerd here of like talking about epigenetics, like remembering what environment we're exposed to activates the genes. So thinking about all of these things, like we can change through neuroplasticity and we can change that destiny that we think is going to happen by simply recognizing patterns, changing behaviors, and replacing them. And I think it's so incredible to hear all of your guys' stories. And we'll talk a little bit. I want to ask the same thing back to you, because you went through a little bit of a different scenario with the loss of your father, right? Like, so when you talk about like you were modeled things, but things happened a little differently for you, I want to ask, were you able to at the time feel like you were able to process that level of loss to then show up to the way things were modeled for you?
That's a great question, man. Thank you for sharing that, because I know we've spoken somewhat recently about your father offline and your parents and their journey, and it was very enlightening to hear about that. Yeah, I guess even though Jeff's parents split up and your parents haven't, you guys got modeled that continuously through your development, where I didn't, right? Losing the father at 10. And I think because 2 weeks after he was gone, it was revealed that it was suicide. That despair of like the down, like was just, motorbike kick started to go the other way, anger just revved me up of like, wait a second, you modeled the most grounded, vulnerable masculine to me. Like, you worked with disabled kids, yet you were the point guard general on the basketball floor. You were the best pitcher on your baseball team, but you drove a shitty beige sedan. You know, we would just get like rotisserie chickens and slap it down and watch sports and drink Diet Coke. Like, it was just like he didn't care what anybody thought. He was loud, he was brash, but I was terrified when we go to his work and the guy had gloves on because he would scratch you. And Dad's like, it's all good. He's just going through different stuff than we do. Like, I was like, this guy is the man. He's Batman, Superman. He's everybody with a mustache. And then it's like, that was phony. That wasn't true. So it was modeled to me of what to be, but it was hollow on the inside in my 10-year-old brain. So I didn't get to process the grief because it was either push it down and act tough about it or get pissed off like these freaking wolves behind me and just want to take it out on the world. So I had that juxtaposition of that, what I thought was supposed to be a good man, but then it ended up being hollow. But I had my mom, who was just the most morally amazing, hardworking teacher, and Scottish immigrant parents to fall back on. And that's what ended up programming me for success. I think, at least to take that anger and use it.
I appreciate you sharing this. And to anyone who's maybe lost a parent or a friend or a loved one or somebody, we all process grief and loss differently. Understanding that there is this level of, wait, were you full of shit? Like, I don't get to ask you. So now I have to fill in, my mind has to fill in these patterns. And this is where I want to ask, because at 10 years old, when you have that glass shatter and all of a sudden your world completely changed, not just from the loss of everything, but you had this perception of who your father was. And then not even the massive loss of it, but then this doubt creeps in of, wait a second, was everything I've seen, been shown to, was it a lie? That's enough to really fuck with somebody. And so that's where I want to go. Maybe you haven't got into that part of everything, but was there a point where you were able to understand that maybe both worlds were able to be true, where he was sensitive, he didn't give a shit about stuff, he didn't let things just build up all the time, but on the other side of things, like the other side was true too, where everything maybe got to him, maybe life did get super heavy, and both were able to exist at the same time? Where are you in that journey, if you feel like sharing? I don't mean to cry about it, but
no, amen, dude. That's when you write a memoir about your life and the manuscript's just getting done, like it's been dove into and it's been looked at and it's been beautiful. But thank you again for that question. It was New Jersey when I did this shared grief project that they reached out to me to talk about my father's loss, and mental health up in Canada with Bell Let's Talk had become more of a thing. And I was starting to understand, oh, this is like there's this stigma, and it was a sickness. He didn't desert me. He didn't want to leave. He was hurting, man. He was hurting. And let's go back to his childhood. He lost his mother at 13 to cancer. He was the oldest brother of four other siblings. And his dad just disappeared off to the Caribbean. So he was originally from the Caribbean. My grandpa, we moved to Canada. Mom died of cancer. He just said, I can't take this. And he just went and fished his days away on the island and left his kids in Canada to figure it out. So who do you think had to be the dad? Who do you think had to put up the tough front that nothing got to him? And reconnecting with my uncle, he's like, your dad was the man. Like he was the man. And when he left, taking his life, we were already broken. That shattered everything. So he had to put on that front of everything was cool and easy and fun and effortless, but he didn't know how to do the work on himself, how to be vulnerable, and not able to put that oxygen mask on, and then gets into gambling. It keeps going. It keeps slippery sloping. And next thing you know, he just reaches out to our family doctor, but can't see them, can't get an appointment till a week later, and he can't make it till then. The pain's just too great. So it absolutely is a both and, a yes and. It was completely real, but just completely not able to be shared. And it makes me think and look back like, man, could you imagine he just sat me down and just broke down in front of me, and I'm 10 years old and going, Curtis, I know it's easy to say now, but I'm like, wow, Dad, we could have done this together.
We're going to get out there a little bit here. Do you feel like by this and your life experience and what he has taught you from maybe behind the veil or whatever people would like to believe. But do you feel at any point, and I don't want to put words or thoughts or experiences into your mind here, do you feel that there is a part of you that's still doing it with him and he's helping guide you through this at all?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it gets into the definitely, like you said, it gets out there. You know, the second mushroom trip with mom and my brother, looking at the back window of this cabin Airbnb on a lake, and I'm just past the peak moment of this huge dose, and I'm looking out, and there's this dad paddleboarding with his son in the setting sun. And I'm
Wow.
looking and I'm having this vision, but in real time, of me being the dad and then him being the son and then him being the dad and me being the son. And it's like, could you imagine if you had stuck around and just been a little vulnerable? We could have been sitting here doing these mushrooms together with mom, who, like, you know, who knows? Maybe they would have got back together. I don't, you know, like all the thoughts start going in your head, but it was this, he has always been here. He's never not been here. His journey was perfect to allow me to never unsubscribe from life, to realize that I could never go down that path. We came in with this soul contract, we get all that stuff, but I know he's never left. I know he'd be so proud of me, and I know I'd just be rubbing his head because he was 5 inches shorter than me. I'd be beating him up now.
You mentioned something. Me and you talk about it. We talk about this whole non-duality concept, right? And which is the idea in this situation is like you and your dad aren't separate, right? He is you, you are him, we are all, I am you. The whole, it gets trippy the more we get into it. But
Yes.
but thinking about that moment, right? There's this. I'm gonna butcher the poem, so I apologize. But it's essentially like when you feel the wind on your face, like I'm there with you, kind of thing. And what that brings me to this non-dual and what you're talking about is like by simply seeing a dad out there paddleboarding with his son at this, especially at the beautiful artistic sunset of it all, while you're peaking on mushrooms, right? And thinking like that's him, like in your awareness, which means like, hey, we're just speaking a different language outside of this material world. Like I'm knocking on the door and you're answering these days. Before we didn't have the awareness or the experience to understand that. But what I'm hearing from you is like in that moment, like you were with your dad. I don't know if you experienced it, but that's how I'm taking it, is like your dad was proverbially maybe like sitting right next to you, like watching that happen together with you. And I think that's just something to like really sit back and reflect on, because if everyone probably can relate to the grief of loss and remembering that like the whole they're in the next room over thing. You got to have that moment of sitting on a, whether back porch, looking out a back window, whatever it is, and you got to, I don't know, watch a sunset with your dad, which seems pretty cool.
Thank you, brother. Oh man, I love doing this with you, dude. Oh man. Oh, that was beautiful share, man. Thank you for leaning into those questions with me. And yeah, we're dancing around non-duality with people. We're gonna dance and tiptoe around here, people. We're gonna wayfare you along into it. But I think that mindset of that, you know, we are all one, as you continue to not maybe believe it yet, but you theoretically and intellectually understand that, as you learn to lean into that, you really can start to see how Jeff spoke about just no bad days. That therapist coming in junior from his amazing coach, he's like, yeah, I pretty much just figured it out then. He said no bad days. And I made this joke about the cartoon character. I looked it up. It was Egghead Jr. from that cartoon with the big rooster that just draws up anything and figures it out. Like, it's like, dude, you just little Einstein. So I remember playing in Lehigh, and Isaac Ratcliffe, very good hockey player, sitting next to me in the room. He gets a tattoo mid-season, a little one on his wrist, and it's a happy face that says no bad days. And I'm in the worst depression of my life. And I go, the fuck is that, man? Like, give me a fucking break. He's like, no bad days, Gaber. And that struck such a note with me. Jeff said it again yesterday. And then you were talking about how Cooper Kupp was talking about lately. How can these spiritual principles like that lean in and help us to see that there really are no bad days?
I think it's like a 7-layer cake, right? It's something along the, like, I think where the message gets kind of misinterpreted is you're not allowed to feel bad. You're not allowed to feel the emotions of sadness, grief, loss, being upset, anger, all of the things, but realizing like those emotions are also part of this human experience that we have. So it's understanding that they are allowed to be present. Like if someone's like, if they're angry at the fact someone says there's no bad days. It's one of being like, yeah, you're allowed to feel these emotions, but then there comes a point once you honor those emotions, sit with them, understand maybe what they're trying to teach you a little bit. You get to reflect on them a little bit. Then you ask, okay, what is this teaching me? Because at some point if we don't ever flip that switch back to being like, I'm getting back into control or to steering the ship, my perspective is a choice. And I think maybe in this world, we're being taught that it's not, that we have to think or speak a certain way or act a certain way. Remember, the way you choose to look at the world based off any part of your experience, your perspective is a choice. And I think that's where it gets, like I said, the different layers of that cake is you don't just bypass the upset, the anger, the sadness, the depression. You don't just bypass that. You honor it. You sit with it. You understand that it's there to has an equal seat or like an equal space at the table with all of the other things. But it's a perspective game and understanding that this is leading me towards those better days. They might not feel present now, but with more deposit and more practice and more deposit of that proof, better days are on the horizon.
Oh, people, this After the Bell is just a straight channel download from Ben Myers. That is so true, man. Because it's who's labeling it a bad day? Who's saying this anger? Who's saying these negative feelings are actually bad? It's the perspective that they are. So take us through how you worked on this in your own life for yourself. What was the way for you to chip away and eat through this layered cake to get to that perspective, or at least have the semblance of being like, yeah, this is happening for me?
Yeah. After I wanted to tell everybody they were full of shit, when I was like, after I got through those emotions and realizing those were my own limiting beliefs, I actually just started a recent practice, and I think his name's Charlie Rocket. I don't know much about him, so I apologize, but I've caught a couple clips, and he does this thing. He talks about winning streaks. So what I started to do actually was, in my handy dandy notebook over here, is I started to carry it with me throughout the day. And in moments that, like, it could be a winning streak. So like waking up, spending time with my cat, recording this, playing music, going for a walk outside, like that is me stringing together wins. Like, oh my gosh, I get to go outside, move my body, get fresh air, see sunlight for the first time in what feels like 3 weeks. I get to talk to somebody I just have so much admiration for, a best friend of mine. Like, just I get to be surrounded by love. I get to talk to my mom. I get to do all of these things where sometimes at the end of the day, we forget all of those things happened because they happen so frequently that they don't feel like wins anymore. We start taking our wins for granted. So what I started to do was list them. So when I go to journal at the end of the day, and journaling is a practice that I have never really enjoyed until recently, I get to reflect on, you know what, my day was all a bunch of wins. I am on a winning streak. So I want to thank Charlie Rocket if he ever sees this, because that mindset really, really stuck with me. That's one way I've been able to get through those limiting beliefs and that glass ceiling.
It's beautiful. And I think it ties into this long shot journey that Jeff Viel had to the NHL where he's playing now, of like, I asked him, like, what was the hardest summer? And he said that COVID summer of just not knowing when you had to be ready, like doing all the extra work. You know, some guys in that time might have said, the season's going to start not for a while. I won't do any conditioning. And then the season started next week and you weren't ready. But guys like us were doing the conditioning every week for months on end when it was usually only a month before the season. So it was this extra grind. But other guys at the gym might look at that and say, you're a loser. Oh, you're going too hard. Take your cape off. I dealt with that my whole come up of training. I'd be lapping guys on the track and they're chirping me. And my trainer looked at them and said, that's why he's going places. You have to be able to push through that cringe feeling, because I swear cringe is a prison. When you break through that thing, you are free. So I just want everybody to note Jeff Viel doing that and Ben Myers taking a book around everywhere. People are going to look at you a little different because they're scared of their light. They're not doing that work on themselves. So people, I think you just have to realize the work and effort that goes in, and not only speaking out your reality with a perspective, thinking it, but putting it on paper. That is a powerful practice, rewiring your subconscious brain, programming it for the next time something negative happens, I can see it with this new perspective. I've put in the work. Ben's putting in the work, people, to be here to talk about this.
You nailed it, especially with Jeff, right? There's this thing in life where you don't always know what you're training for. So whether it be like you look at me like I'm 38, right? Like, why are you out there running all of these miles? Why are you out there doing this? Like, you don't have to be doing it. You can do things differently. It made sense to me when I went out to visit Colorado and I went and climbed a mountain with my sister and her boyfriend. And for the past year, like I've been on like not I want to at all call it a fitness journey, but a self, improvement journey where I lost like 65 pounds. I would never have been able to enjoy or do that at all 3 years ago. Like, wouldn't it? And I remember that in that moment, I go, you never know what you're training for. You're training for life. You're like, we want to be able to experience these things. We want to be able to enjoy the days, change our perspective, tap in, align to that best version of ourselves, highest version of ourselves. But it starts with understanding that we can change. And when we don't know what we're training for, if training camp is extended by 6 months or 3 months, and we're like, I don't know when this is going to stop, like, it doesn't mean you stop training. It doesn't mean you stop working for yourself and doing all of these things, because opportunities showed up for Jeff because of that, right? Like opportunities when he got to go to Boston, when he got to then go, now he's in Anaheim, like all of these things, like those were compounding winning streaks of mindset, discipline, motivation, practice, all of those things. So I want to ask you quickly, like, what do you do? Like, what is something you are able to do to kind of tune in and start either righting the ship or changing the narrative?
It all just comes back to that meditation for me, that discipline meditation practice. Whether you want to do it or not, it's like you running when it's raining or not. It's showing up regardless and doing the work. It's Jeff Viel making the team in the NHL with the Boston Bruins out of camp for the first time, but then only playing 10 games and being in the stands. But he's got to be ready. If he gets traded, he better be ready to show out game one. And guess what? He was. And he goes out there and he's 3 points his first 5 games. And he's solidifying his spot on like a third line on a great team that's up and coming. It's the same mentality. You do not know what's coming around the corner. You do not know what you're quote unquote training for your fight in life, but because it's not about any destination. It's about this term I heard from this really high-end mortgage billionaire. He's like, joy's on the mountainside. It's not in setting the goal. It's not in reaching the goal. It's in the doing. You don't want to be anywhere else but that. You couldn't possibly. So just relax into it. And that's why I say the discipline meditation practice, because ultimately you have to sit there regardless of what comes up every time. And that's what happens in life. And it's always the unexpected things that get you.
And for people that might cringe at the idea of like the meditation practice, I was one of those people. And what I've learned, right, is meditation isn't stopping those thoughts. It's observing those thoughts, allowing them to have a seat at the table, allowing them to come in. But it's the practice of letting them pass through and go. And when they come back, it's allowing them to be there to pass through and go. And it's just, you're just watching them. It's the act of observing and being and not attaching the emotions to those things. That's the practice, right? And in those moments, you find stillness and you find presence and you find the whole being thing. But yeah, I know you've been really tuning into the meditation practice for a couple of years now. And you have been somebody that I think of like at the beginning of the day, sit on the edge of my bed for 2 minutes, take 2 minutes of breathing just to set my intentions for the day and align and feel every cell in my being just align to this being a winning day, winning perspective. So I want to thank you for having that influence on me, because I don't know, man, you have been a constant and a consistent in my life and showing us that. So I want to say thank you for that. And obviously bringing this to the world, because I think you're going to destigmatize and demystify a lot of what this spiritual meditation, what can be classified as woo-woo stuff is. So thank you for the work you're doing and we're doing out here. I appreciate that.
That's a great correction at the end. That's why he's Ben Myers. People, he said, we're doing, because we are just channeling that love and light. We just play tennis of love and light back and forth. Who's channeling it through? It's your turn. It's my turn. It's your turn. Where it's all the same thing, baby. And I couldn't agree more. Like with meditation, do we ever try to change the weather? Can you do anything but observe it? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do, people? Okay. Oh my God, dude. What a channeled after the bell. It doesn't even matter where it goes, because there's just so much wisdom flowing from you, so much light, so much love. Thank you so much, brother. Another one in the bank. Who knows what's coming next?
Everybody, thank you for being here. Thanks for checking us out at After the Bell. Thank you to our guest, Jeff Viel. If I messed up
Yeah,
your
it's a
last
tough
name,
one.
brother, I apologize.
It's a
But,
tough one.
oh, sending everyone so much love. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you on the next one.
Love you all.